Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2019. Thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. We got a little bit of a different format tonight, just for tonight though. We have a special guest. I'll get to that here in a second. Let's take a look at our space weather news so far for today, August 21st, that is. Thank you, Mari. Over at the grandsolarminimum.com.
They know when we go live, Jake.
Apparently.
They do.
So, solar wind coming in at 349.5 kilometers per second with a density of 7.0. 14 days in a row without sunspots. That's 157 days in a row. 68% of the year without sunspots. KP indice coming in at 1. And the 24-hour max is at a 2. Looking at TCI, which last time we reported on it was 3.11. Now we are looking at 3.05. Again, continuing to trend downward. It continues to drop. It gets to a different plateau, and then it drops, and then it comes back to another plateau, and then it drops. And we haven't really even started this minimum period just quite yet. Let's go over to our space weather section here at the grandsolarminimum.com. Very, very quiet. Solar X-ray flux, solar proton flux, and of course KP right now is actually at a 0. If you look at the current data information. Let's take a look at the SDO in motion real fast. So right now we are concentrating on the coronal hole that sparked the G1 storm back on August 5th. As you guys could see that pretty clearly here, this hole should be Earth facing. Now I know it looks like it's growing, but indeed it's just turning towards Earth, so we're seeing its true width, but it does look like it might be getting a little bit wider, so we'll keep our eyes on it. But at this current time, you would have to believe that this particular hole should spark increased solar wind speeds and possibly a G1 geomagnetic storm as well. Let's go back over to the space weather page here on the grandsolarminimum.com. Taking a look at our star, and on the eastern limb, we do see a pretty large area of a possible coronal hole. Look at that thing, folks. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what a scale of what Earth is when it comes to these sunspots. So basically look at the tip of my arrow, all right, and I'll put the tip right at where it would affect Earth as far as its magnetic field. Let me move that up a little bit right there. So we'll let it go around one more time. So you'll see we're gonna just clip that one, but the second one we will definitely be in line to feel the effects from that on both north and southern parts of our magnetic field. So we'll keep our eyes on that one, as it seems it could bring a little more solar wind with it. In fact, some active regions possible around that area as well. But again, we've seen it a couple different times where we thought we had active regions that would turn into spots and then they just fade out. But taking a look at this outlook here, definitely some interesting space weather to come here in the next 7 to 9 days, as we will continue to monitor this. Let's go ahead and take a look at our TSI reading for, I believe this is going to be on August, let's see, 21st, sorry about this. This is for August 12th. Actually, that's the same as the last time we saw the TSI, so it stopped reporting. 1360.586 was the last report on this. Some interesting stuff if you guys follow the SOHO images. Mari puts in the very beginning of our solar updates, and be interesting to see what happens to TSI here in the next coming days. So we'll continue to hopefully get updated results for TSI reading. All right, so enough of the space weather section of this. Today I'd like to bring on a special guest. He's been a long time subscriber of our channel, and his name's Matt, and he calls in tonight from Nebraska. And I kind of wanted to bring him on tonight because, here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, we talk a lot about agriculture and delayed crops and everything like that. But you always wonder, you want to hear it from the horse's mouth in situations like this. Now, Matt, fortunately enough, from what I understand, is not one of those farmers that really got hurt really bad as far as plant. But I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about as far as what he's seen this year compared to what he's seen in the past. And I'll just get right into it. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, Jake. How are we doing tonight?
Can't complain. The weather's actually kind of nice out here. A balmy 69 degrees after a few thunderstorms. But other than that, pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful evening here, too. As you were saying, our crop is behind this year. I think just as pretty much everybody is. That doesn't mean it's giving up yet. It's just going to be a late harvest. Like we've talked about before, we're just kind of hoping that the frost can hold off for as long as we can keep it off and get this corn crop made. So
I've seen a couple of fall forecasts from NOAA, and I know one thing that I've learned from you is basically how much heat we need, how many days, and it's bad enough that, like you said, we are behind, and there's a lot of people who are a lot further behind. Some are 3 to 5 weeks behind as far as where we should be. I saw trying to find the map here for us real quick, but
and we can, as farmers, we can still harvest it it has to be matured and the crop has to be made, but we can still harvest it wet, but that requires us to dry it down. And you're putting it into a drying bin, which costs money to run propane or other forms of heat to get that crop dried. And it just, with the way the prices of the crops are right now, it's not that you don't want to put any more money into this crop than we already have in it at this point.
I've seen a couple of reports of the fall temperatures being above normal. Would that help if the middle part of the United States actually had summer temperatures hang around again for September? Would that be something beneficial for you guys?
Oh, most definitely. Usually out here, I'm in western Nebraska. Usually our first frost isn't until in October. Here, just in my lifetime, it seems like it's around that, mid-October. And that's not a killing freeze. There's a difference between if it dips down below 30, or, if you have a hard frost. And that's the one we're worried about, is that if we get a killing freeze, like in September.
What kind of temperatures are we talking about that is considered a killing freeze?
Well, your ground temperature keeps enough heat. So, your air temperature. I would say it just depends on how hot it gets. If we have cooler weather and it gets cold to the point that it freezes, then it'll freeze. But if your ground temperature holds holds heat, and you just have one night that it might dip down below freezing,
Gotcha.
Then we won't worry about that.
Gotcha.
It just has to be a sustained cold event.
And this is kind of why I wanted to have the talk. And by the way, Matt has agreed to come on again and kind of get an update on his situation as well. But this is kind of the reason why I wanted to bring you on as well. I don't want that hysteria, that first 30-degree reading when it comes in, for people to freak out and say, oh my God, it's, the crops are damaged and this and that. It does take time. If it is warmer in September, like NOAA is saying, which a lot of the times NOAA's wrong, but They get paid the big bucks, right? They've
Yeah. I hope they're right.
I do too. I mean, I don't think anybody's rooting for, oh my God, let's get that cold weather started up right now because that's what's supposed to happen. I don't care. Nobody's rooting for that to begin right now because I think this spring has opened a lot of eyes, and I think a lot of farmers also have said this over and over again. I've never seen this before. I mean, have you had those moments as well? Never seen this before moments on your farm?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just, before, the show here, I was just thinking, been thinking about it for literally the past 2 years here. Just, this has been the wettest 2-year period that, and even my dad said it the other day. He goes, I don't think I've ever seen it be this wet, for 2 straight years in a row. Usually out here we get one maybe wet year and then kind of go back to average, or, usually for the most part, we're kind of on the dry side where I'm at. So it's just been, crazy the amount of moisture that we've received. And, I think everybody remembers the floods that we had in Nebraska back this March, and I mean, if that happens again this spring, it's going to be, bad news because all the lakes are full and everybody's saturated up. There's not really much more room, that we have to give. So.
Yeah, that's a big concern when you're talking about next spring, because a lot of folks, and us included, believe that next April especially is going to be a very challenging situation with, we believe, record amount of cosmic radiation getting in through our atmosphere, increased space weather that will contribute to these wet patterns, the temperatures, cloud nucleation. Everything that we've learned about this since day one has come true, and we keep hearing how it's going to keep getting worse. And I remember when I really started noticing this stuff was in 2017 when the weather started getting a little funky. And then last year, I was also seeing a big change in how much rain we get in one storm. But 2019, it's almost worldwide where the changes are so intense. And that's my concern as well for next year. I think if things continue to happen the way they have, I don't have any really reason not to believe that we'll at least have the same amount of snow from last year, if not more. And think about that. You're talking about ground that's already saturated right now. So if we get the same amount of snow from last year, we weren't as wet in the winter of 2018 like we were this year. So imagine what 2020 is going to bring if we continue to see increased rain, which I don't see anything letting up right now. Here in upstate New York, we had several rounds of downpours, 3 or 4, and I'll show pictures of that as well in a little bit. But I guess my point is that I was talking to a friend today, and he told me I haven't seen it flood like this since 1996. Well, 1996 was also the beginning of a solar minimum. So he was witnessing the all of a sudden outburst of increased cosmic rays because of the weaker magnetosphere that we begin to see once these minimums start. But it's all cycle, and he even said he said, I can't believe it really does come back around in a cycle like this. And I think it's eyewitness. When you see it with your own eyes, that's when things start to click in. When do you think this topic made sense to you, or has this something you've followed for a long time, or is this just something new for you?
No, it really hadn't. I mean, I haven't, honestly, I kind of I want to kick my science teacher back in high school, because it's like, we never learned about, so, I mean, if we did, it wasn't that big of a deal, it was probably covered in about 2 minutes, the solar cycles. And, honestly, like I said, here about 2 years ago, I was just like, it started raining. And, the first year I didn't think too much about it. By year 2, I was like, this is kind of weird. This isn't normal, And just doing some research, I stumbled upon the whole, the sun going through its 11-year solar cycle and the sunspots. And then that actually led me to your guys' channel, and then a lot of other people's channels that I've kind of watched here and there. But it just really, it just really kind of clicked and made sense. And it was like, well, and then I look back to history too, because I can remember my dad talking about all the wet years, farming. You always remember the wetter years because those are the years you usually have a better crop. And,
right.
And I just remember my dad talking about those years, and it lined up with, every year he was talking about was, and I look back at the solar cycles and I'm like, yep, that's, right there where it was supposed to be. So, it just kind of clicked with me, I guess, and I've just been interested in it basically for probably like the past 7-8 months, really. So.
And what's interesting is that I think your field of work, no pun intended, but in your field, this makes sense to you. You're in agriculture, and the solar cycles and what we're describing to you makes, and if anything, you would know, because you work a lot outside. So if anything, every day the weather is kind of your life. It really depends on what you do is based on the weather that day.
Oh yeah, 100%. We haul corn to the ethanol plant, and we drive the semi, and it's just this year's been, and last harvest was just a struggle to get the corn. Even though if the corn gets made, it's still going to be a struggle to get out the field. Just like last year, we were getting, the combine stuck, the semi stuck, the grain cart stuck. Wow. Everything was, and it was just even though it was a good, we had a decent crop, and it just, everything was delayed, because usually we're done harvesting by like the middle of November, and like last year we finished up on, it was Christmas Eve is actually when we finished harvesting. So,
and
we were.
How long have you been doing this, Matt? How many years have you been running your own show?
Well, I grew up. I'm a 5th generation family farm.
Nice.
I grew up. I actually live in the house that I grew up in. So
that's awesome.
That's I went to college, and I actually went to college for criminal justice. My dad was always a big believer in, you kind of need to get off the farm for a few years and do your own thing. And then I came back and decided to farm. So, I've been actually full-time farming since 2011 is when I moved back full-time. So. Yeah,
because you're a young guy. You're in your late 20s, I believe, and it's just...
Yeah, about 30, 34.
Okay. Yep. So 5th generation farmer. Wow. I can only imagine, like, there's a couple times we talked in, certain, like, I remember back in March where you had told me your dad said he's never seen it this wet before. And to me, like, I always feel like there's more of an impact when I hear from a farmer when he says things like that, because they know, like I said, your life depends what you do in the field that day and what the weather does. So that, to me, I think there's more value. And the USDA reports that are coming out, I feel like they're being misleading. And that's why I thought it was also important to bring you on and kind of talk to us about what you're seeing as well, and not just, putting all this trust in the USDA. But I guess what I'm curious about, like we talked about this before, but tell me again, what kind of crop do you grow in your fields, and about how big is it as far as acreage and everything?
We grow corn, soybeans, and wheat. Our farm's around 2,400 acres of crop ground, and out of that 2,400 acres, about 660 acres of that is irrigated ground, which there's a difference between dry land and irrigated ground. Then we have about another 2,500 acres of pasture and rangeland for cattle that we run, and we run around 200 head of Delvay Angus cattle.
Oh wow! So, does the stock market scare you at all when you see the reports from USDA and then the prices drop? I mean, is that worrisome, you think, among other farmers as well? Or you've seen this kind of thing before?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. It's been up and down. It's been, I remember the days when, back in 2012, 2013, corn was $7.50 a bushel. So I remember those days. That's right back when I first came back and started farming, not too long after. So, I mean, I've seen both ends of it. I've seen the high prices and, I've seen the low prices. Right now, what concerns me a little bit is I think it's pushed a little too low right now.
Prices?
And I think some of that has to do with the whole trade war thing. And
yeah,
I don't have all the answers to that. I can't say that I understand 100% of that. All I know is, China is, there's a lot of mouths to feed over there, and we depend on them. And, right now they're kind of throwing their weight around with the ag economy, and, which is understandably so.
I also wonder, too, speaking of the trade war, is this a good move for us as far as keeping our product here on the mainland if it's delaying sales? Should we look at this in a positive light too, or is it still a bad thing the longer this drags out? Because I'm worried about, with the crop issues that we had at the beginning of this year, and we saw a really minor hiccup in some of the Walmart's local stores where we had a shortage of peas and green beans for a few weeks. No big deal, nothing to panic about. But it was, that was the first sign of ever having to see signs being hung up in our supermarkets in the United States when it came to vegetables. So I guess, like I'm saying, on the trade war thing, is it possible that some of this is strategically being done to also kind of help us be prepared for a possible, low yield this year?
It would be. I can't say if that's what they're thinking or not. I do know I don't think as Americans we really want to get ourselves in a position where we oversell and then end up not being able to, kind of have enough to go around here.
Right.
I honestly think that overall, it would have to take probably more than just one bad winter in order for us to fail as I think it's going to have to take. Right now, the old saying, rain makes grain.
Yeah.
Our crops do what we got planted and what we have in the ground and going right now. It looks really good, like I said. But I'm just worried about that first frost, and when will that come? If we can get by and, have a, quote unquote Indian summer and get by, out here at least, I think, we will raise a decent crop out here. So.
And it's hit or miss too. I know you said you drive several miles away and there's still areas that have crop issues, not planted, and other parts of Illinois.
Well, yeah, and then you talk to other people, like I've listened to other people that, like up in Minnesota and the North Dakotas and South Dakota and, parts of Iowa and Illinois. They are, they're way behind, and really it's the three I's when it comes to corn. It's, Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. those 3 states raise more corn than any, I mean, that's the corn belt right there. I mean, as far as I'm from Nebraska, and I have no shame in saying that's the corn belt.
Right.
The 3 eyes. So, really all those acres up there in the north. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of acres that are in trouble, but they just in the in that corn belt, there's so many more acres that are raised that it doesn't even hold a candle.
And see, and that's where you make a good point right there. You talk about Illinois, Indiana, Iowa being the corn belt. I'll agree with you on that, and that is the most worrisome area because I've been reporting on the crop report for several weeks, and every week we talk about how poor Illinois, Indiana, Ohio is doing in their corn and soybean crop. Iowa is not terrible, but it could be better. But seriously, the Illinois, the Indiana, and you saying it's the Corn Belt, I've driven from Dayton, Ohio, all the way to Chicago, Illinois, the most boring drive ever in the world. I mean, I've also traveled out to Kansas, so I mean, that's not the most fun drive either. When you're going through the state of Kansas, it's all hills or just crops. That's it. And there's not much to look at. Same with Indiana, Illinois. It is long. It's like that's just a giant cornfield in that state. So that's what concerns me when I look at NOAA's prediction for the fall for the next 3 months. And I look at Nebraska and Kansas and Oklahoma and parts of Missouri. They're looking to get above average temperatures, slight above though. We're not talking a bright red here. This is 25% to 30% chance of temperatures being above normal. That's all that means in that light orange. So there's a small chance that we'll see above average temperatures in your region. But like you said, there are crops that are already behind. And so this welcomed warmth, definitely, I hope for the sake of our crops that this is an accurate forecast here from NOAA. I always give them a lot of crap about being way off, and they have been. Last year's winter forecast was amazingly hilarious to me. It was way off, and they changed it right around January once they realized that it was going to stay cold. Now I'd say they had a lighter version than what weather.com had. Weather.com actually uses its independent research company to come up with their forecasts. And last year from December on, Weather Channel didn't miss. That's because the company they use to research for their forecasts, they actually rely on models that include the sun. And actually, I've cited weather.com's even stating the reason why we were seeing such a cold snap of weather back in December or January last year was because where we were in the solar minimum, in the solar cycle, it said. So not a lot of major weather corporations will admit anything that the sun has to do with it. But that's so confusing to me, Matt. This topic is so weird. It's so real. And if you go to NOAA's website and click on cosmic rays and its effect on the climate, the first 2 sentences in the description tells you that all of the weather is driven by the sun. Hands down. It clearly states that. And then at the end of the description, it talks about how cosmic rays, if that scenario was real, where cloud nucleation and, of course, increased precipitation, it even states, NOAA states that the climate would have a significant impact if this theory is proven true. And I don't know about you, Matt, but it looks like all the cloud nucleation and everything that they talk about, that stuff seems to be coming true.
To me, it just seems like a no-brainer. Even if you were somebody that didn't believe in cosmic rays, I mean, you walk outside on a hot, sunny day, you're warm.
Right.
You walk outside, during the middle of the night, it's cooler. So I don't understand, how people don't agree that the sun is a driving force in things is beyond me.
I use that same argument. Like, if the sun wasn't that big of a difference, then why does the temperature drop 20 degrees when it goes down? at night.
Right. Yeah.
So, man, good stuff. Well, Matt, listen, I appreciate you joining us tonight. I would love to do this again next week if you're available anytime. I think each week we can kind of talk about something different. But before you go, I did want to ask you one more thing. What do you think, as far as people that you've talked to about what's happening? Do you think farmers are probably on the fence on the GSM, or do they believe that man-made global warming is causing all these problems?
Where I'm at, no one, where I'm located at, there's not hardly any farmers that believe in man-made global warming.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't think there's many farmers that know about the solar cycles, but that also goes back to like what I was talking about earlier about just being taught about it, taught in school about it, you know. There's just, but by and large, no, farmers do not believe in man-made global warming at all. We're kind of on the opposite side of that. We're in a lot of ways kind of regulated and kind of the butt of the joke on some of this man-made, global warming stuff, and we have to put up with a lot of the, how do you say it, repercussions of, false, advertising,
right?
With the man-made global warming. So
I think what would frustrate me, Matt, is like hearing about certain things in the Green New Deal where they want to ban meat and people that raise cattle for a living. I mean, that's gotta, when you hear things like that, doesn't that make the hearts drop of farmers that raise cattle for a living? I mean, to hear that, hey, if we stop eating meat, we'll create less climate change. But what about the farmers? What about the people that raise the cattle? Where are they going to make that extra money to pick up for the beef that's not being sold anymore? If those policies actually go through, can you imagine the economy and how much of a hit it would take? And I don't think people realize it's not about the initial cost. It's about the long-term effect. That in fact, if we actually went through with some of these insane policies, I mean, it's probably scarier when you're actually working in that direct field when you hear claims like that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really want to boil it down to everything, I mean, what would you do if you try to get rid of the whole cattle economy, the whole cattle business? What would that do to the whole economy as a whole? Because farmers and ranchers, farmers grow corn to sell to ranchers to feed their cattle, which if you get rid of the cattle, then, what are the farmers going to grow on their land? And then that in return, if that whole thing collapses, who's paying the taxes on this ground? Your property taxes, that's going to cripple a whole nother side of things. So it's too big to bring down. I don't really worry about it. It's kind of laughable at sometimes, because it's like, I hate to use that word, but it's too big to fail. They will never get rid of agriculture. People have to eat.
Well, and I think if agriculture fails, it has nothing to do with man. It's going to have everything to do with coming climate change that we're going to experience natural. So just another example of how man can't start or stop climate change or the effects of it. What we want to do is learn to adapt. And I talked to you about that earlier on the phone, that it's a must that we continue to educate ourselves. And, talking to guys like you and other folks and getting the truth about what's happening out there in farmland USA. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully we can have another talk like this next week, and kind of, there's tons of things. We could probably talk for hours, but unfortunately, I know you're a busy man as well. But hopefully we can get together again next week and have a little chat about what's going on, if there's any update on your crop or anything like that.
Will do. Sounds like a plan, Jake.
All right, thanks for joining us, Matt. Again, we really appreciate your time, bud.
Okay.
All right, take care. Take care. All right, guys, that was a GSM contributor, Matt, out of Nebraska. Again, 2,400 acres, I couldn't imagine. I know that some of you may think that's small time, but to me, the work that even on a farm that size is endless, in my opinion. Matt updates me almost daily on mowing, on driving grain trailers, and just everything. And it's kind of cool to get to see it firsthand. And I got to be honest with you, having interactions with Matt really has made me fall in love with our farmers and what they really mean to us. And I feel like things like the trade war and these natural disaster bills that don't get passed, I really feel like that it's time for our politicians to wake up and start taking care of the people that make this world run, really. And it's our farmers. Without our farmers, we don't eat. We don't do anything. We don't exist. And it's a shame that they're caught up in the middle as leverage in certain situations. So again, thanks, Matt, for joining us tonight. I hope we have many, many conversations. We probably could have talked for hours tonight, but everybody has other things to do as well. Matt's a busy man. I'm pretty sure he's had a long day himself. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a climate update. Talk to you.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so let's get back over here to Grand Solar Minimum, or I'm sorry, the Grand Solar Minimum. By the way, another little attribute we've added here to the website. Mari, thank you very much. Showing us lots of information here, eruptions, warnings, unrest, earthquakes. We got it here, folks. All right. Walmart suing Tesla. And this, I really shouldn't say it like that because this isn't funny. This is embarrassing. We get a lot of flack for harassing certain folks in the community that should know better. And once again, Tesla, or I should say Mr. Elon Musk, is finding his way back into the headlines. Now, what I mean by this is that it seems like we've talked about Elon several times about failed projects. Now, we can all agree that his SpaceX seems to be doing well. His launches and all that stuff. You can't complain in that area yet. But there are a lot of other things to complain about when it comes to Elon Musk and his projects. Now, he's one of those guys that likes to throw things up against the wall and see if it sticks. I don't mind that. I get that. I get that mentality. It's something you do in sales. New York, where the state of New York gave Elon Musk 750, was it 750 million? Or 700?
I don't know the numbers.
It was a large amount of money to build. I don't know if you should really do it when it comes to people's lives, but here we go, city. And in return, Musk promised by 2017 over 1,500 jobs for Buffalo in Solar City. Now, at last check, Solar City employed around 480 people. And it's 2019. Lots of disappointment for Musk on that end. But here we go. Walmart is suing them for a breach of contract arising from years of gross negligence and failure to live up to industry standards by Tesla with respect to solar panels that Tesla designed, installed, and promised to operate and maintain safely on the roofs of hundreds of Walmart stores. Why were multiple Walmart stores located all over the country suddenly catching fire? The answer was obvious. Starting, the stores all had Tesla solar panels installed by Tesla on their rooftops. At each location, the fire had originated in the Tesla solar powers. Now, a good friend of ours, Lee, told us many, many years ago that One of the biggest problems that Elon Musk had with his solar panels was his solar wall. It didn't work. It didn't go together. Here we go. May of 2018. It was clear that Tesla had breached its contractual obligations to the state. The obvious, properly designed, installed, inspected, and maintained solar systems do not spontaneously combust, and the occurrence of multiple fires involving Tesla systems is but one unmistakable sign of negligence by Tesla. Oh yeah, one, folks. To this day, Tesla has not provided Walmart with a complete set of final root cause analysis needed to identify the precise defects in the system it caused all the fires described above. The number of defects, however, is overwhelming and plainly indicative of the systemic, widespread failures by Tesla to meet the standard of care as set forth in the governing contracts as solar systems installed at Walmart stores. No, not the real solar system with Mars and Jupiter, but the solar panels and all that good stuff. Okay, unfortunately, even de-energized was not enough to prevent additional fires. In November of 2018, Walmart discovered that yet another fire had occurred at a Walmart store in Yuba City, California, even though the solar panels that the store had been de-energized since June of 2018, wires on the store's rooftop still sparking at the time of Walmart discovered of the fire and could have ignited a more extensive flames with potentially devastating consequences. Equally troubling, after Tesla technicians visited on the rooftop, this particular one now, one of the technicians failed to close the cover to a combiner box, exposing this important piece of equipment to elements and thereby creating a fire hazard. Still more troubling, Walmart subsequently learned, independent of Tesla that is, that a potential dangerous ground fault alert had occurred at the Yuba City site during the summer of 2018. Now, Tesla either ignored the alert or deliberately failed to disclose it to Walmart. Which is worse? The issue that caused the ground fault alert likely caused or contributed to the subsequent fire in the fall of 2018, revealing Tesla's utter incompetence or callousness, or both. What's upsetting about this is it's almost like Tesla is acting like a fly-by-night roofing company. You know those companies that are like ambulance chaser lawyers? They come in, they canvass your neighborhood, and they leave flyers and tell you that they can give you free roof inspections. And then they do the roof, they do a good job, and then they leave town. And then, you know, if they get a complaint, which they hope they don't, they'll hire someone local to go check it out. Maybe he's not that qualified. Maybe he's a guy that works for the company that just does these calls from time to time. And basically, this Tesla rep was there and either ignored the alert or just didn't want to, you know, tell Walmart about it. Because maybe he's trained by his boss not to disclose this stuff. We're already losing money. Tesla can't afford it anymore. That's scary, guys. Stand behind your product, Elon. De-energized solar panels from 4 months prior should not be the cause of a fire, period. So, A, they're de-energized. Why? They're not using them. Why are they there? What's the point? Remove them if they're not being used. If the system is not functioning properly, remove them. That's what you have to do to make this right, Tesla. You're being sued. So if you want to get out of the suit, I think the first step would be is to either A, have a real professional maintenance person go up there and conduct a proper inspection, or just remove your solar panels and Powerwall altogether. Which from the sounds of it, and I'm going to do a little more research on this, but from the sounds of it, there's been a lot of fires nationwide that have been blamed on Tesla. So, interesting news. I thought I'd bring it up because, you know, like I said, we've been taught about Musk and he's had some success, very minor. But when it comes to solar panels, everything that he's put his name on when it comes to solar panels has been an absolute disaster. And that's been the truth from day one. We've been told that. And quickly, federal program says you should set your thermostat at least 78 degrees during the day. Hold on a second, folks. I just want to do a little field trip. Okay. So, the thermostat right now in my office is actually at 78 degrees. So this works out for this experiment. I'm only on here for about 45 minutes to an hour, but I can tell you this, guys, profusely sweating, no doubt. This is the first step of things like the Green New Deal that are going to control your complete life. Listen to these numbers, guys. 78 degrees during the day, heat of the day. Who cares if it's 100 degrees outside, 80% humidity? You keep your thermostat at 78. That's where you set your air conditioning at. Okay, 78, still a lot cooler than 107 degrees outside, real feel of 115. I hear you. Now, will you save money on your electricity bill? Absolutely. But this does one of two things. This, A, is setting up for less consumption so that solar and wind installations can begin, possibly. Goes on saying that 78 degrees during the day when you're home, and when you go to bed, you should raise it up to 82. When you're not home, you should increase your AC to 85. Now, I can tell you something. 85 degrees inside your house is sweltering. I mean, absolutely tropical rainforest hot, in my opinion. Without air conditioning running, yeah, even with the windows open. So you're going to run fans. Now, obviously, fans don't take as much electricity than your window unit from your window air conditioner. But what if you only ran maybe one small air conditioner in your house? All right. How many fans would you then run in your house? And would 5 fans, the electricity that it took to run 5 fans, equal the same amount of electricity that runs one air conditioned unit? Just a thought. But anyway, so yeah, 85 degrees when you're not home. So it could be a death box when you come home from work. After working hard all day outside, you get to come home to a hot, sweaty box. Or 82 degrees at night when you go to bed. Now, I don't know about you folks. I sleep with a fan on, of course. That does help in the window. I've also read studies that state that you sleep a lot healthier in a colder room. It's better for you to sleep in a cold, and I could see the benefits of that too. Plus, you get to cuddle up to your favorite, like I get to cuddle up to Mari. So, Anyway. But no, seriously, guys, here is the first step of our government trying to control your. This is the new norm. You can't mow your grass because that's bad, as we tried to point out in Monday's show. And that leads me to a quick little chat I want to have before we do the weather. And there's a lot of things going on right now with climate and the way we report the news. And I got to be honest with you folks. Mari and I are working feverishly on a plan, and possibly, just other venues to perform our news reports and actually be able to report the truth without being censored or feared of being censored or punished at that fact. I can tell you this. It's really difficult. There's a lot of platforms out there, but you have to find that one that just fits right, and that's almost impossible. So I want you guys to bear with us here at this channel. We're going to keep delivering with the best news possible for Grand Solar Minimum and climate. But we're also going to do our best to find that happy medium where we can not worry about dodging certain names or dodging words or anything like that. It's shocking how much our channel and others like us are being suppressed. We provide nothing but links and articles that direct us to peer-reviewed papers and actual science and research that's now surfacing. Some of it's considered new. Some of it we've known since the 60s and 70s. The point bringing Matt on tonight was to let you guys know that farmers, they deal with the weather every single day. And when you have a farmer telling you that they've never seen this and they've never seen that, that's who I'm going to listen to when it comes to climate. The fact that the majority of the farmers that Matt knows, and probably the whole country, they don't believe in man-made global warming because they're probably third, fourth, fifth, sixth generation farmers, and they've probably heard the time that it rained for 40 hours, or the time that it was 110 degrees in the shade, or the time they got 8 feet of snow uphill both ways from school. They've heard these stories because they happened in cycles. So to me, I'm going to trust a farmer for sure. And I know what we're doing here at this channel is contributing to helping reveal the truth about what is happening to our planet and what could happen to our food security. I also want to point out too, Matt believes, and I have also had this belief as well, that it's going to take more than one bad winter to put us in a real crisis. And that may be true. But let's just look at this past winter and spring. This could be the first of what many are saying are going to be a disastrous winter and spring, especially 19 into 20 and 20 into 21. I've heard a lot of talk of those 2 years. So buckle up. It's going to get bumpy. Guys, we'll be right back with our weather. Don't go anywhere.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, let's get you started off here. This is in Troy, New York, which is near Albany, the capital region. And this is from a friend of mine. He found this video. But yeah, this is Troy, New York. As you see, the water is just flooding in downtown area. And, you know, the thing that he told me that I found, this is the guy who was telling me the last time he's seen floods like this was in 1996. Here's I-87 north. Actually, this is going south in this lane right here. But this is in the Clifton Park, Latham area, near the Troy, New York area as well. And I'm going to say something about this region. Being from around here right now, we live around this area. This is the 6th heavy thunderstorm in the last 2 weeks with downpours as big as we had today. Actually, we had 3 more today. So we've had about 9 thunderstorms that brought heavy rain with it in the last 2 weeks. And this is the result now. We are starting to see that our infrastructure is becoming a little stretched. And when I showed him this picture, the first thing he came out of his mouth, he's like, you know what? This reminds me of 1996. Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the year that they had the tornado in Mechanicville? 96. Somewhere in that area. But anyway, he is also starting to see the big picture, the correlation, how these solar cycles line up. The fact that I mentioned to him that was also during a solar minimum, knowing that we're in one now, he didn't know much about this stuff several months ago until he met me, really. But he's now starting to have that aha moment, that clicking, like Matt and myself and all of us have had. So some freaky showers and storms today. And then here's another video. Looks like, Mario, where is this footage from here where the roof basically is collapsed? This is in Indianapolis. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, this morning we had a horrible line of storms. We reported on, actually in the solar report this morning, this is the line of storms that was moving through when I was talking about the severe weather. That's the damage it did today. Pretty impressive stuff. 2,500 remain without power after Tuesday's severe thunderstorms. About 16,000 customers lost power after a severe thunderstorm Tuesday night. And then today, you know, I'm looking at this map. I do it every morning now. We just started that here. And the freaky part is about 65% to 70% of the United States every day is in the line of thunderstorms and showers. I know that we have better equipment now to monitor and forecast, but in all my life that I've paid attention to the weather, I've never seen such an active pattern of thunderstorm chances and possible of strong to severe thunderstorm chances. Those yellow areas and the blue boxes, those are areas that are expecting severe weather right now. They're experiencing some form of extreme either lightning or rainfall or wind. Right now, we've got showers across New Mexico into Texas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, Kansas City into St. Louis, Arkansas, southeastern Missouri is where all the action is right now. And then you've got the Northeast. And here in upstate New York, we saw at least 3 to 4 different thunderstorms that brought down heavy amounts of rain, anywhere from a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. I wouldn't be surprised at an inch of rain fell this afternoon within just a couple of hours for sure. And I know that's weak compared to other areas. But also we want to pay attention to the south, Florida, the Tampa area, Fort Myers, all that area. It's been raining nonstop for several days down there. So concerns of flooding happening now down there as well. The south has had its share of moisture. So let's take a look at Mike's weather page and take a look at the tropics first and foremost. We do have a little bit of action start. First of all, Chantal is just a storm that's going to kind of spin out in the middle of the Atlantic. Nothing should happen. But we are watching this one right here. And let's see if I can click on that. This is disturbance number 1. It has a 20% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. That is as of 8 p.m. today, August 21st. The formation chance in the next 48 hours is 0%. Formation chance for 5 days is low at 20%. So when we talk about a 5-day storm that's right here already, and in the next 5 days, it only has a 20% chance of forming, we have to look at a few different kinds of conditions. Is it going to be favorable water temps? All kinds of things. So right now, let's take a look at, let's see, what do I want to look at? Where's my dust forecast? You always want to look at that. Well, let's take a look at shear tendency first, I guess. Right now, the wind shear in that particular region is favorable for a hurricane or a tropical storm to develop. Most of that wind shear is running right now through northeast, the northern Great Lakes, parts of Nebraska, Kansas. So particularly right now, the chances are there. Let's see what happens over the next few days, if that gets stronger at all. But it could develop, and that's probably why we're looking at the 20% chance. The other thing is I like to look at is the dust forecast, which is very useful to have, because a lot of that dust that comes off the African coast will absorb a lot of that moisture. So we have to remember that as well. And the dry air that is filtering into that part right now, again, this is why they're expecting some kind of favorability, is because there is lack of dry air at this point. And there is tons of Gulf moisture circulating along the south, going up the east coast and through the northeast. So, so far so good. Again, 20% chances are very low, but this is probably the most action that we've had here in the last few days. We still don't have a hurricane name. Okay, it's August 21st. We're starting to see the slowest hurricane season on record. Even if Chantal, no matter what her situation is, she's not going to make landfall. It's not anything of any concern. So just want to put that out there. We're nearing the peak season of hurricane season, and we have still yet to have a land, and that's thankful. Thank God. Good for that, because we've had our share of winter weather and spring weather. Honestly, I don't think nobody is rooting for a hurricane at this point. So, all right, let's go to our GFS forecast and take a look at what's going to happen here in the lower 48 over the next several days. Again, the first 6 days, pretty reliable. Anything after that is just basically an outlook. And the pattern stays wet across the Tennessee Valley through the south, and good news. After Saturday, some dry weather on the way for the Ohio Valley and the Northeast through the weekend. Beautiful, gorgeous weather for Ohio all the way through the Northeast because of that high pressure system that's sitting there. Notice that Californian hurricane that's going to quickly fade away and will not have much effect, if at all, on the coast of California. Meanwhile, we've got showers and thunderstorms building up in the northern plains and into southern Canada. And look at this. By Tuesday, that high pressure system's moving out far enough in the Atlantic where we will see a pretty decent amount of rain moving through the Ohio Valley through the Northeast. But high pressure builds in behind that. South will continue to stay wet, especially Florida. High pressure is attempting to keep things dry in the Ohio Valley through the Northeast once again on Friday, August 30th. This is next week, by the way, folks. This weekend coming up, a lot of us here from the Ohio Valley into the Northeast are going to have gorgeous, beautiful weather, mid-70s, high 70s tops. And then by next weekend is when we could see our next batch of moisture. Actually, we get 2 chances for significant moisture in the Northeast and the Ohio Valley through the South and Southeast. After that system moves through, September 1st, another high-pressure system trying to settle here in the Northeast, which will protect the Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, New York, and other states, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia from possibly more moisture, that dry air. And also, if you guys want to take note, yeah, the GFS is showing a slight disturbance here off of South Carolina and North Carolina coastline. This is September 2nd into the 3rd. It's not even a hurricane status at this point, but it is a storm that we will kind of keep an eye on to see if there's any further development. Again, that storm will also be picked up and drifted off into the Atlantic Sea. Interesting, something happening in the North Atlantic around the 3rd or 4th of September. I'll switch out the maps here in a minute. But as we get into September, well into September, 5th, 6th, and 7th, we see a wet pattern starting to form once again. So it seems like every 3 days we see this decent-sized low-pressure system that comes through the same spots and creates multiple chances for heavy rain and showers and flooding. Again, some pretty decent systems moving across the United States right now. This is for tomorrow. So a good chunk in the United States will be wet. Washington, Portland. After the weekend, on Friday, we start to see things just get really gorgeous Friday night. For, like I said, the Midwest and the Northeast. Beautiful weekend weather for you guys as high pressure will dominate and temperatures should be really comfortable, low humidity. But notice how all that moisture is staying with this away from this high pressure system. Obviously, this high pressure system is creating drier air, keeping it cool. And right here is where we're going to have the hot and muggy weather. Down in here, this is just going to be wet. Possibly heat reaching up as far as Nebraska, South Dakota. But for the most part, like I said, guys, the weekend plus, we will see gorgeous weather. So this might be a good weekend to kind of have a family day out, go hiking, enjoy the outdoors if you live in the Midwest or the northeastern part of the United States this weekend. Great weather on the way. But like I said, on Monday, the South, the Midwest, the Northern Plains, they become soggy once again. Tuesday, storms. Some could be severe, firing up in Illinois, parts of Missouri, and moving eastward. And again, the GFS is trying to show something weak. That could be our storm that has a 20% chance of developing in 5 days. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This very weak system right here, as it does not really amount to much as we move forward. All right, so let's take a broader look here because there's something I'm seeing at the very end of this run that has my curiosity. Let's go to the North Atlantic. And okay, yep, so there is a low pressure system that I saw. All right. So as you see, we got high pressure dominating the mid-Atlantic like it should be. And that's basically rotating that moisture from the tropics through the Gulf and then the east coast and part of the United States. And once these other high pressure systems build in after we see more of this moisture move past the east coast, our high pressure kind of takes a dive and then disappears. And then at the last moment, we have some high pressure near the Nova Scotia area. And check this out. this could be something to watch for those folks up here, and especially in Maine. And where does it go? Well, it does look like it's going to make a brief landfall, the very tip here in the Northeast. So that's another storm to watch. And of course, if you go to the UK, everything we see spinning up like that, you got to worry about our friends across the pond getting nailed as well. Let's take a look and see if we can see any possible wave coming off of Africa or anything that would indicate any kind of tropical storm or disturbance. And it's just not there, folks. Not at all. Mario, you want to come on over here and say hello to the folks in the chat? I'm going to go ahead and check out the UK as well. Oh, say hello to the folks down under.
It's been interesting in the chat. A lot of people are talking about, well, Matt's in the chat, and he was talking about his farming to people. I'm sort of, people have been asking me a lot of questions about funding with our site and what limited means and why that matters to us. And some people are asking me to crunch numbers I just simply don't have off the top of my head. It is interesting, and it's hard to... Yeah, a lot of people, I think they watch the channel, they don't understand the frustration. You always do. Anyway, limited means that YouTube algorithms essentially push you down further down the line so your video isn't promoted. And alongside that, the videos typically won't get advertisements, and if they do get advertisements, they're really cheesy, hokey, awful, sometimes offensive, low-paying advertisements.
Yeah. The ads, you're right. Some of the ads are offensive.
They're awful.
We've seen ads that go from people's menstrual cycles to people who have weight issues buying clothes that cheat the look. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
So that's limited, basically, and that cuts, what, 60%, really? Into the normal
60%.
revenue?
I mean, even when you guys do super chats, YouTube takes 30% of it away from us. I mean, YouTube is a machine. Facebook is a machine. Twitter is a machine. Google is a machine. It is frightening how much control they have. And people have been sending me links. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending me the links you are in regards to this little struggle we're having. Because I'm realizing that YouTube is acting like a publisher, controlling the content, but they're also wanting the best of both worlds and trying to be a public platform. But on a public platform, you can't censor and restrict the way they have been doing, and there's a lot of court cases going on and battles going on with that. So the question is, why do we need money to fund this channel? Well, our website is a hog for hosting. It costs a lot of money to host. For the videos and the software I use, I have monthly fees and subscriptions like Adobe. They're a software company. I have to pay them monthly to use their software. If you guys like your fancy graphics and neat things that are pleasing to the eye, which I completely 100% enjoy doing, there's a cost to that. I'm rolling out podcasts and able to post that. That's not only another $30 a month.
The wear and tear on computer, desk, chairs, microphone. I mean, seriously, we've done close to 800 videos since we started this channel. I bet you we've done 600 just in the past year or so.
Well, I've had to upgrade the computer. We upgraded our computer 2 years ago, and I'm killing it now. My laptop's from 2013, and that's nearly dead. There's costs involved in running it, and I run these computers into the ground. It's just, if someone asked me to give a top of the head estimate how much on average I spend, if you consider the hosting, whether it's the podcast, the website, the domain renewals, and it's not just the domain renewals, not just grandsolarminimum.com. I do .net and .org, all of them to protect our brand, basically.
Thor says
protect it.
Thor says
costs money.
Thor says he gets a lot of meat women over 50.
Then Thor in the chat, he was like, well, let me hop on Patreon, I'll do that right away. And I'm like, you know what? I'm almost scared to refer people to Patreon now because they are restricting content creators on Patreon. So it's like, I don't want to build up another platform and have it crumble. So I found a rival to Patreon, which is that SUBSCIBESTAR, and I'm waiting to be approved by them. I don't know exactly why it's taking so long to do. Probably because they're getting an influx of people sick of being censored. But that's why have a platform.
Yeah, and that's why I said we still have to do our homework on where we're going to make that new area be. So I appreciate those who are eager to go to the Patreon. We're not saying don't do it, but at the same time, we're still trying to weigh out what is going to be the best routed out map for the grand solar minimum news. Because I'll tell you what, folks, I don't want to be limited on what I say and how I say it. I'm getting tired of it. And I know if we had a constant flow of people who are subscribed, say, to the dollar part of the Patreon channel, it would really help as far as us just releasing everything and saying we don't care about what YouTube puts into it, because we'll have our goal amount that we need for the month. Work
freely without being controlled by YouTube and manipulated in that way. I mean, that's why I think going the website route would be a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of technicalities in that, especially with the video streaming that we're doing. You not only need a web host, you need someone to host your video streams, and everything adds up. And if you start crunching numbers, it's like, boy, this is overwhelming. Is it worth it? All this hard work and effort.
And then YouTube takes it away from you.
You have an emotional, you're sinking in a lot of emotional time, just your physical time, your financial resources. This channel takes a toll. And Jake bought me a bouquet of flowers yesterday and a big pack of mint Oreos to like cheer me up, because I was really just struggling with it. It just takes my breath away. I uploaded 4 videos and they all went limited. It's like, whew, we're done.
Yep.
But thank you all. Thank you very much for supporting our channel and putting up with this. We are going to sort it out, and we will have a new home eventually. We just have to put one foot in front of the other and keep on going, really. That's all we can do. It would be easy to walk away and just go outside and enjoy the sunshine and gardening and doing whatever and just not even thinking about the channel. Trust me, it would be like a vacation. Life would be so relaxed and calm. But at the same time, walking away from this channel is just another win for the other side, and the lies and the hoaxes and all the scams going on. And I just can't allow that. And I know you probably can't. You can't either, Jake. Mm-hmm. So thank you. And I'd like to thank SoulQuest also for her super chat. I don't know. All right. Actually, someone else had a question. Vince wants to know what the projected lows are in the upper plains.
Well, I mean, I'm not into the forecasting. I don't have a specific magic ball. But if I have to go off of what I've been told, I mean, we're not talking about, Pluto cold. We're talking colder than usual, though. And that's still going to be creating problems. So I don't have a specific number. I know a lot of people like to make bold forecasts for the year in June and July. But me, I'm reporting on this. And I can tell you just based on trusted meteorologists and trusted scientists, I do believe that we will see some very cold temperatures, especially in the upper plains this year. Absolutely.
And then also, Matt said, thank you for this channel. Jake, what can we expect for fall this Ohio? When are we getting bad? When is it going to affect our daily lives? What do you think the forecast is for Ohio? They've been struggling quite a bit with their farms and all the moistures. I've actually read today there's a lot of cases of blight coming in. If you don't know what blight is, it's like a fungal issue with plants. It actually led to the Irish famine, potato famine back in the day.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm rooting for NOAA's 3-month outlook to be true. And like I said, guys, I know Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and parts of Iowa, they need that Indian summer to help with the crops, because I share what Matt shares as far as concern, and that is, are we going to beat out this this early, are we going to get early freeze? Is it going to affect crops? So as far as weather in Ohio, you guys need all the warmth that you can get. So let's just hope that you do get that Indian summer that some believe will happen. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying, if we're seeing leaves changing in August in all parts of the United States right now, I mean, different parts, Northeast, Midwest, Northwest, Central Plains, out in the Rockies, we're getting reports all over the United States that we're seeing leaf colors already changing. So I hope Noah's correct. But the unfortunate truth, last year's winter forecast and fall forecast were way off. I want to shout out to Ave Team. Thank you for the super chat.
Is it Ave? I say Av. You said Ave.
I don't know. Ave
it's
Team.
Like potato,
Ave
tomato,
Team.
tomato.
Anchor.
It's like anchor.
You know, what's the difference?
What's the other one I say?
Anchor.
I don't know.
BF.
I think that's all. Actually, I'm going to wrap it up with a big thank you to Matt. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yep.
And I'm going to share High Servant's comment. Farmers are our backbone.
Yep.
Too right.
That's right. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum News. We will be back with another live broadcast on Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, with our solar updates in the mornings. Until next time, folks, we will talk soon. Take care.